myself, I'm losing myself tonight. Losing myself, I'm losing myself tonight. With your love, with your love, I'm losing myself, I'm losing myself tonight. Losing myself, I'm losing myself tonight. With your love, I'm losing myself. Losing myself, I'm losing myself tonight. Losing myself, I'm losing
So today, guys, we're going to go through a stretch session. So this stretch session is going to work predominantly around our hips and our glute areas. So a lot of us get a lot of stiffness in those areas just in our day-to-day jobs, just from any functional exercise that we're doing. So we look to stretch those out. So some of the stretches we're going to do repetitions, and some of those stretches will be a timed effort. So I'm going to take you through each and every one of those exercises. It'll be a live process, so you'll just follow the reps with me and you'll just follow the time as well. So we'll start off first of all with our lizard stretch. This is going to be a 2-minute effort, and we'll split the stretch 1 minute on each side. So you're just going to take a position on the ground. So just start off in that 4-point position, and we're going to bring one foot in close to our front hand, so our hand should be in the centre, and we're going to stretch out the back leg to take the pressure through, and we're just going to feel a big stretch on the back, on the hip flexor of that back leg. And from this position we're just going to push our hips rather into the ground, and we're just going to rise up through our chest, so we'll feel that stretch across that front hip flexor and then through our thoracic. So we're going to start off in 3, 2, 1, and really push those hips into the ground, or that hip into the ground, rise up through the chest, so you'll feel that stretch through the back and to that hip flexor. So if this is new to some of you and you need to come out of that stretch, you can just relax off and then just push back into that stretch when you need to. So we're going to hold this ideally for a full minute, really focusing on stretching out that hip flexor and pushing through. So you can just work your way up, really stretching through that back. And if you need to, like I said, just take that pause when you need to. So I'll give you a countdown before we're ready to switch over. You've got 15 seconds. I'm going to switch in 5, 3, 2, 1. So you can just switch your legs over. Reposition yourself, and really again into that next minute. Push the hips down, push that chest up, stretch that back. Really focusing on feeling that stretch, that hip flexor. Pushing forward if you need to try and get a little bit more influence to that stretch, and really arching the back and pushing yourself up off the floor. Some of you may need slight elevation there if you need to, if you just haven't got that full flexibility, or we're trying not to stand up too much or sit up too much. And really push the chest, and again just feeling that stretch through that back area. You're going to feel it probably through the adductor on the upright leg, but we want to be pushing down into the ground to feel that hip flexor go in. 10 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So you can come out of that stretch. So we're going to move on next to a side-to-side squat. So we're just going to take a nice wide stance for this squat, and we're just going to shift our weight sideways. All right. And then we're going to come back up in the middle and then switch down on the other side. So we're going to look to do 10 reps on each side. So we'll go in 3, 2, 1. Really push that bum back and down, keeping the chest high. So what we don't want is for that chest to fall down on the hips, because we want to try and get that influence through our glutes as well. Good. So you're going to feel that stretch on the adductor on the inside of the leg. Really trying to sink down further and further with each stretch that you're doing. Good, and that's done. So we're going to go into a middle split squat next. We're going to take that seated position on the ground. So this may be a work in progress for some. So ideally we're going to sit nice and upright first of all. I'm going to take our legs as wide as we can. So obviously the wider we go, the fuller the stretch is going to be, and then we're going to work our way down to the ground. You can either reach out for your ankles, or you can just work your way through to the floor. And we're going to hold this stretch for 60 seconds. Ideally what we want to be doing is pushing our knees into the ground the whole time, okay? So if we're getting any influence or we're getting any raise into our knees, we may just need to bring those legs a little bit closer together. So 60 seconds on me, 3, 2, 1, off you go. Good, so as we're sitting in this stretch, you may feel that you can walk your way a little bit further, feeling that stretch on the inside of the legs, making sure that the whole time our toes are pointed up, and we're really pushing those knees into the ground, okay? We also want to keep our back nice and straight, so we don't want any arching there. So if you feel that you are rounding on the chest or rounding on the back, just bring those arms a little bit closer. So really push yourself forward. We're more than halfway. Good, nearly there. Good, last 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Good. You can come out of that one. So we're going to go back into that side-to-side squat that we've just come out of. So again, taking that nice wide stance, and we're going to shift our weight either side, 10 reps on each, coming up each time in the middle. Good. That's 2. Keeping that chest up, really sinking down and pushing that bum back and down. Good. That's halfway. Good, as every rep progresses, we should look to be achieving a little bit more depth. Two more on each side. Good. From there, so we can stay in this position, and we're going to go into what's known as a Cossack squat. Cossack squat holds. We're going to hold a position nice and low for around about 90 seconds. So just go side on so you can see the depth of the squat, and then 90 degrees in the angle that I'm going to hold. So from this position, again, nice and wide, going to sink down, so you've got a 90-degree angle in the leg. You can lift your toes if you need to, and we're going to hold that position 90 seconds on each side, okay? So on me, in 3, 2, 1. Good, keep that chest up. So try not to fall in the chest if you can. So this is a long hold, 90 seconds on each side. So as and when you need to, you can come out of that stretch and just try and regain that position when you can. a long 90 seconds. Let me start counting in twos, okay? 30 gone. Excellent. Good. Really try and keep that position for as long as you can. There's nothing wrong if you need to come out of that stretch. This is quite an intense stretch as well, if you've never done it before. So there's obviously a lot of work going on in this leg that's doing the weight, and a big stretch on that opposite side as well. Good, so you've got around about just under 30 seconds left. 15. Oh, I can't hold it myself. Good. Last 5. 3, 2, 1. Good. Oh, you might want to shake those legs off before we go into the next one. Good. So it is an intense stretch. So obviously just come out of it when you need to, as you saw that I did there. I'd rather you come out of it and go back in and maintain that position, rather than start to come out of that and change your technique as you're doing it. So, gosh, stretch. Good, so we're going to go in that other side for another 90 seconds. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. May have more flexibility on one side than the other, which is absolutely fine and normal. Trying to maintain that 90-degree angle through that bent leg. And again, you can just raise the toes of the other leg if you need to. Good. Keep holding. Like I said, come in and out of the stretch as and when you need to. This is a tough one and it's a long time. Good, nearly there guys. Keep that chest up, try not to let that chest fall. Good, I'm going to come out for a second. Shake the legs off. Good, we've got around about 30 seconds left. See if we can hold it for as long as we can. Stretching's easy. Good, not long left. 15 seconds. Legs are starting to shake. Well, it started to shake a long time ago, but never mind. Good, last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done. Oh, my legs are gone. Good, well done guys. So you'll shake that off for a minute and we'll go into another few stretches. So we're going to go in next to a pigeon with a hip flexor. So just err inside caution now, your legs are going to be a little bit shaky, they've done a lot of stretching already. So you're going to go down on the ground, into a tall plank position first of all, hands slightly narrower than normal, and we're just going to draw one leg in and hold for 90 seconds and then we'll swap over. So we'll go in 3, 2, 1, good, hold. You're going to feel that stretch across the glute. So we're looking to drive those hips into the ground. So if I change my position, I'm going to bring that foot out. It'll just give you a stronger stretch. And what you want to do in this back leg is push that hip into the ground. So what we don't want you to be sitting on that bum cheek, okay? So really be nice and tall. Use your hands and drive that hip into the floor. Good, so we're going for 90 seconds. This one's a little bit easier than the previous. Good, really concentrate though on pushing this hip into the ground so we're not sitting on that bum cheek on the opposite side. So it's almost our first minute. Good, 30 seconds left and then we'll switch over. Good. So again, try not to let that chest fall, really push through that chest. Just getting a lot more influence to that glute and stretching for that hip flex on the opposite side. Got 15 seconds. And then we'll do a switch. Good, last 5, 3, 2, 1. We'll come out to that position and then just go straight into it on the other side. Again, pushing that hip into the ground, making sure you're staying nice and central, so what we don't want is any lolloping on the side. And if you can move that foot a little bit further out. Again, keeping the chest up, push the hips in. The more you push the hips in, the more you'll feel it on that glute as well, okay? Good. So these exercises are really beneficial for those people who are in a job where you may be sitting down for long periods of time, where our hip flexors tend to be quite shortened, and particularly when we're looking to get back into training after a long period where we've had a bit of a lull or a bit of a gap with our training periods at the minute. So we've got just over 30 seconds left. So again, really push those hips into the ground, straighten out that trunk and push that chest up. Good. Last 15 seconds. Nearly there, guys. Last 5, 3, 2, 1. Good. So we can come out to that stretch. So the next one we're going to do is a diamond frog. So particularly if we've got very restricted movements through our hips, or our hip flexors are quite tight, some of us may feel that this is quite a difficult exercise. So obviously you're just going to work through the range of movement that you've got, and hopefully then through consistently using these stretches, you're going to just look to improve that movement and that flexibility. So we're going to start in a tall kneel position. So you're going to notice that my feet is going to be together, and all we're going to do is really concentrate on pushing our knees as far apart as we possibly can, working obviously within your range, and then we're just going to drop our chest to the floor, or our arms to the floor. So we're going to be in our forearm position, and we're going to drop our hips to the ground. So the smaller the angle between our hips and the ground, the more this stretch is going to be felt, okay? So we're going to go for 90 seconds again. On me in 3, 2, 1, off you go. This is a difficult stretch, and it may feel a little bit uncomfortable to start with. So really concentrate on keeping those feet together, keeping that core nice and strong as well, so we don't want any sort of influence or any lulling through our lower back. Keep the core nice and strong, but really concentrate on trying to push those hips into the ground. And obviously the further apart your knees are, the lower they are going to get. Good, so you're going to hold it for 90 seconds. You've got a minute left. Again, as all the previous exercises, if you need to come back out of it, that's fine. You can just come back out of the position and then just drop back into it as soon as you can. Really pushing those knees out and dropping those hips to the floor. Good, nearly there. Good, it's our first minute gone. And keep that core nice and strong. So we're going to pull that belly button into your spine. 20 seconds. So we're going to push those feet together. Nearly there. Last 10. Good. Last 5, 2, 1. Good. So we're going to stay in this similar position. We're going to keep those feet together, and we're just going to have a bit of movement. So this stretch is going to be a little bit more active. So the same position as we just had, down our forearms, looking to take those hips as close to the ground as we can, or we're just going to slightly come in and out of that position as we would in. So off we go. We're going to go for 90 seconds again, just dropping our hips as far as we can and rocking back out. Good. So again, as we're moving through this, what you may find is that you'll get a little bit more movement, or you may achieve that closer depth into the ground. Really concentrate on keeping those feet together and pushing those knees out as much as you can, really focusing on trying to push those hips into the ground. Good, keep going. Again, this is going to be for 90 seconds. Good, really push the feet together. We're a minute in, so the last 30 seconds. Really drive those hips into the ground. Nearly there. This is heavy going on those hip flexors, but it's going to be worthwhile doing. It's got the last 10 seconds. 5, 2, 1, good. So again, we're going to stay in a similar position, so our knees are going to be nice and wide. We're going to take our chest as close to the ground as we can. The difference with this one is our feet are going to be apart. So it'll just mean that we've potentially got a lot more freedom of movement through those hips, and we can look to achieve a better range getting those hips into the ground. So this one is the rocking frog stretch. So obviously the rocking movement is where we are going to come in and out of that stretch again. So we're going to again do this for 90 seconds. So down onto our forearms, again because our feet are apart, we're going to get a lot more freedom of movement and a lot more range. So we'll go in 3, 2, 1, off we go. So as you can potentially see, the difference between the distance between my hips and the floor this time around versus the last is a lot less. So really looking to squeeze the bum cheeks as we're pushing down into the ground. Again, keeping that core nice and strong. If you feel as you're going through this movement, you can actually move those knees a little bit further apart, then obviously do it, and you'll just get a lot more benefit from the knees. Good, keep going. Stop and start when you need to. Come out of it, you can just ease off the stretch. Or if it's a little bit too much, you can just bring those knees a little bit closer together. So we're already a minute in, less than 30 seconds to go. And we can let those hip flexors relax. Good, last 15. So really push back as much as we can. Rock those hips all the way. Use every single second of this workout. Last 5. Good, that's time. So we can let those hip flexors relax a little bit, and we're going to change position completely. So we're going to focus a little bit more on our shoulders now, okay? So we're going to do a tabletop stretch, where we're just going to hold the position on the ground and just look to stretch out those shoulders. So you can take a seat on the floor. Just make sure your feet are around about hip width apart, just so you've got a nice stable base. So with our hand position, our hands are going to be facing forward, and what we're going to do from here is we're going to drive our hips up, push our hips all the way to the ceiling, and try and get a nice table flat top, okay? So you will feel a lot of pressure through the front of these shoulders, as and when you need to, as ever, just come out of that stretch, ease off, and then just go back in. So again, this one's going to be a 2-minute stretch. This one's a really, really long time to be holding a position, so it's not the expectation that you're going to start off with a full 2 minutes from the start. And obviously you'll just work up to doing that then as you progress through the movements. So again, hands facing forward, drive those hips up, squeeze the bum cheeks as we're staying up there. And we're going to push up in 3, 2, 1, off you go. So you're going to feel this through your hamstrings, you're going to feel it through your glutes as you're squeezing the bum cheeks. But obviously what you can be doing is feeling it across the front of those shoulders as well. Drive the hips up. So I feel like your legs are shaking from the past couple of stretches. Also try and keep your head nice and neutral, so don't let the head fall back. If you need to, tuck the chin ever so slightly. It's going to be a long 2 minutes, so just ease in and out when you need to. Try and get as much stretch through as you can though before we come out, okay? Good, keep holding. Squeeze the glutes. Really drive those hips up. Good, I'm going to rest a second. You can move position, you can stretch those arms out, you can just wiggle them out a little bit and just go back into that position when you need to. So our first minute's already gone, so you've done really, really well. We're going to drive up again. Good, squeeze the glutes, drive those hips up and just feel that stretch across the front of your shoulders. Good, again, tuck that chin, don't let the head tip back. Good, 30 seconds left. Good, nearly there guys, drive the hips up, legs are shaking. Good, last 15 seconds. Really hold it as long as you can, try not to let it go so soon. Try and get all the way to the end of those 2 minutes. 4, 3, 2, 1, well done. Whew, that wasn't easy. So, sweating. We're going to go into a delt extension stretch next. So we're going to be side lying. Oh, I beg your pardon, I'll go back. So we're going to go into a delt extension stretch next. So we're going to stay in this position on the ground and we're going to hold this for around about 90 seconds again. So different to the previous one, our hands are going to be facing back. So you want your hands around about shoulder width. So what we don't want is those hands tracking out to the side. So keep them nice and neutral. And all we're going to do is just walk those hands back. We're going to walk them back until we get a good stretch. We're going to hold it for 90 seconds. Really pushing up on the chest so you can feel that stretch through those fronts of the shoulders. So we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, off you go. Really walk those hands back as far as you can. Keeping them nice and close. And really pushing up through your chest. And you'll feel that stretch through the front. You'll also feel this across your biceps. Really push the chest up. And again, don't let that head tip back. Just keep that head nice and neutral. Edging those fingers back as you go in through the stretch. Good. So this one's quite intense as well. So going for 90 seconds. So we are more than 30 seconds in. Good, really. So what we don't want is that chest to fall, okay? So really concentrate, pushing that chest up. If you can't get the chest up, you may just need to pull those hands slightly closer in, or in towards your bum rather. Really push the chest up. Good, we've got 30 seconds left. Good, again, if you need to come in and out with the stretch, you can do. Just really push the chest up. Feel that across your biceps, and you also feel it across the front of your shoulders. Good, last 15 seconds. Good, push the chest up all the way to the end of this stretch, okay? Last 5, 3, 2, 1. Good, and we can ease off. So our next one is still going to be focusing on the shoulders, but we're going to get to have a lie down. So we're going to take a position, so I'll just change my angle ever so slightly. So we're going to side lie, so that we've got our arm completely out at a 90-degree angle from our torso. Keeping your chest up. So we're going to change that angle of our arms as well, so we've got a 90-degree angle there. I'm going to place my hand over my wrist. So from this position, all we're going to do is actually go through a full range of movement, down to the ground and back up. But what we're going to do is use a bit of resistance. So my hand on my wrist is going to resist on the way down. So it's going to put a bit of pressure. So my hand is going to be pushing on the way down. So my arm that's moving is going to try and resist that move. And then the opposite on the way back. So obviously going to try and push down on this one and resist on the way up as well. So again, we're going to go for 90 seconds, just working through that movement, okay? So we'll go in 3, 2, 1, off we go. So you want slow control moves on these. What we don't want is just a fling through that movement, okay? So really feel that resistance, especially right at the end where we're trying to get that influence to that stretch. Really resist it and push it into the ground as much as we can. Our aim is try and get the hands close to the floor as possible and come back out. All the way down. Just make sure we're resisting, so we shouldn't be slackening off at all throughout this exercise. Really feel that stretch to the shoulder. Good. Good, so we're coming up to our minute. And we're going for 90 seconds. Really, really resist all the way. You're going to feel it working all the way through the shoulder capsule. Really get as much range, so as you're going through the movement you'll feel that your hand will actually get a little bit closer to the ground than it did to begin with, and you'll get a lot more movement through your shoulders as well. Last 15 seconds. Good, keep going. Last 5, 3, 2, 1, good. So we're just going to switch over and do the exact same thing on the other side. So again, as a lot of us will have a lot more flexibility in one side versus the other. So we'll just work within our range. So we'll go again in 3, 2, 1, off we go. Good, make sure we're resisting all the way through the move. So resisting on the way down. And keep that tension there on the way back up as well. So this move will really influence and be beneficial for when we're doing things like overhead moves. Particularly if a lot of us are, again, slightly hunched over from our day-to-day jobs. And a lot more rounded in the shoulders. Good, keep going, make sure we're resisting all the way through. Again, trying to gain a little bit more range with each and every time we're going through the move. Good, first minute gone, last 30 seconds. Last 15. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, we can ease off there. So our next two moves, we're going to need something with a bit of elevation. So I've obviously got this here at the minute. So something like the edge of your couch will be absolutely fine. A dining room chair, something like that if you've got it, but something that's not too high. So this one's going to be an elevated cat. So we're going to again feel a lot of stretch to our hips, but we're also going to feel a lot to our lats as well, which again are a really good muscle that we need to focus on stretching out. So all we're going to do is come nice and around about arm length away from our elevation. So from this position, we're going to take our hips nice and wide again. So the further your knees are apart, the more stretch we're going to get through it. And we're just going to take our arms and we're just going to rest them on this surface. So this may just be a bit of adjustment as we're going through the exercise. Just make sure we've got a good position. So ideally, thumbs are going to face the ceiling. We're going to take this position there, we're going to sink down, and then we're going to really push backwards and allow our chest to come closer to the ground, okay? So the closer our chest is coming to the ground, we're going to feel a lot more stretch through our lats, and obviously we're going to open up those hip joints a lot more as well. So again, knees nice and wide, keeping your chest up and pushing as close down to the ground as we can, aiming to get the head through the arms. Again, what we don't want is any sort of rounding. So we're going to keep this position for 90 seconds, and the same with everything else we've done. If you need to come in and out of the stretch, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to push down. As we're holding, you may feel you've got a bit more range of move, so just readjust yourself open those knees out and drop the chest to the floor a little bit more. So we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, off you go. So really push the chest to the floor, keep that back nice and straight, and again, just adjust those knees if you feel you can get a better stretch or a fuller stretch to those hips. Try and keep those thumbs pointed to the ceiling, and you're going to push with your arms as well into this, the elevation of the seat of the chair that you're against. Just so you feel that stretch all the way to the lats. Push that chest to the floor and really drive those hips into the ground as well. So just keep that core nice and tight too, so we don't want any sort of lull into that lower back. Good, we're almost to our first minute. Really feel that stretch. Again, if you need to come out, then do so, but really benefit from this stretch. Good, last 20 seconds. Good, this is a nice stretch as well, especially for that thoracic spine, so that upper back. Four, 3, 2, 1. Good, I'm going to come out of that stretch. So we're going to use this bench or this elevation again, and we're going to work through stretching out the front of our hips. You are going to feel this quite a tense and deep stretch through our quads as well. So this may just be that we just need to readjust our foot position as we're going through it, and obviously just work through that stretch as and when we need to. You may need something just to hold on to, so I've just got a prop there as a weight, just to keep me a little bit more balanced, to allow me to push through in that upper spine. So maybe if you've just got maybe a small chair or something that you can just push against. So for those of us who've ever done anything like a Bulgarian split squat, we're just going to take a similar stance to that. So we're just going to have that rear foot elevated. You may just want to bounce forward or jump forward a little bit, just so you've got a bit more movement. And like I said, I've got that prop there just to keep me a little bit more balanced. So we're just going to sink down, and the aim is to keep a nice straight line from our quad or our thigh into our chest. So what we don't want is any rounding there. The more rounding we're getting, we're taking any stretch off our hip flexors. So really nice and tall, really push the bum forward and get that stretch to the hip. So we're going to sink down, and again we're going to hold this for around about 90 seconds on each leg. It is an intense stretch, so again, if we need to come in and out of it, that's absolutely fine. And you may need to just play around with the position of that front foot, just to allow yourself to push yourself nice and straight into that stretch, okay? So we're going to go down in 3, 2, 1, off we go. That knee, you may not be able to see with this prop there, is going to be nice and flat on the floor, so it's going to have contact with the floor the whole time. Again, just adjust that foot if you need to, use this prop, and we're going to push through. So really squeeze the bum cheeks, push through in that stretch, and keep that chest nice and tall. So we're just going to really, really feel quite a lot of tension through that quad, to those hip flexors, and keeping that chest nice and tall. So obviously you're just using this as a bit of stability. If you don't need it, that's absolutely fine. You may need to push yourself back out of this stretch after a while. So again, so rather than coming back in and out of the stretch by standing up, if you need to ease off, then you can just dip forward in that chest ever so slightly, okay? So we're nearly into our first minute, so really drive those hips forward, squeeze the bum cheek, and push that chest nice and tall. So first minute gone, another 30 seconds. So I'm feeling this quite intensely on the front of my quad, but I'm also feeling it on my knee. So if you do need to maybe put a cushion or something under your knee just for a bit of comfort, that's absolutely fine. We've got 15 seconds left. Cushion charge probably should have told you that again. Good. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, I'm going to switch over. So take care coming out of the stretch. You're not going to fall flat on the face. And we'll just switch sides. So obviously just change that position of that that support if you need to. Make sure that foot position is nice and stable. And we're going to drop down again in 3, 2, 1. Off we go. So drop that knee, chest up, push the hips forward, and squeeze to the glutes. Good. So this is the last of our stretches. So really get as much as you can out of every one of them. Squeeze the bum cheek. Like I said, and feel that stretch through that front leg, through that quad, and keep that chest nice and high. So if you need to have a bit of relief, like I said earlier, just drop that chest a little bit, and then just bring yourself nice and tall. Good, nearly there, guys. Good, really push forward, squeeze the bum cheeks. So again, this is a really tough stretch, and like I said before, you may have a lot more freedom of movement or a bit more flexibility on one side versus the other. So this is where we need to try and even everything out. So we're already 20 seconds or so left, and then we can have a bit of easing off in these muscles. Good, last 15. Really drive through every last second. Good, last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. So we're done with all those stretches, as I gracefully got out of that one. So just make sure that doing these stretches is obviously going to be something that's really beneficial for you, particularly getting back into functional training or getting back into any sort of strength training that we're doing. So just make sure that you utilise the exercises and try and work through them on a weekly basis at least. Thanks.